Hello, everyone. This is Judy Ann Chung, and we are here again in our normal Sunday discussion on different topics. So here we are, and I always tell you a little bit about what's happening with the weather. Well, today, it's a bit of rainy and dreary, but such is life. At least we woke up this morning, right? So again, I'm Judy Ann Chung from Coaching You Upward, your leadership coach, wherein I move leaders and high performers to get it done. So today's topic is centered around diversity and inclusion. Does it matter? So we hear a lot about that conversation. So, but before we actually kick off and I introduce you to our lovely Kelly Charles Collins, I am going to just do a little bit of housekeeping and give us a chance to share it to our respective places. And I'm going to ask you to go ahead and share it to your pages, accounts, tag your friends, whatever you have to be, because let's face it, that's something that impacts all of us. So at least they'll be able to hear it from the top of the hour. So I can see Allison. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I can see Carla. Thanks for joining me. Also, guys, much appreciated. So give me 2 seconds. And Kelly, feel free if you would like. Okay, so I am in the process of sharing. So I have somebody that's actually trying to text me right now to let me know that they can't see me. So guys, if you are on my personal page, I will share it to my personal page so you can pick it up there. However, if you go over to Coaching You Upward, you will also be able to pick us up from that vantage point. So again, thank you all for joining us. All right. So 2 more seconds. Thank you. All right. So sadly, my friend, I'm not able to help you any more than I'm able to do that. I see people still texting me. So I saw somebody like the invite. All right. So I'm going to try my best. This is the best that I can do, is just to reshare it again. So the most I can see is go on my page. All right. Hi, Angela. Thanks for joining us. Hi, Carolyn. Thanks for joining us also. All right, guys, so we are going to kick off. Hopefully that would have helped the respective persons who were having challenges. Hopefully that's all righty. So as I shared with you before, I'm Judy Ann Chung, and I have with me today the wonderful Kelly Charles Collins. She's an employment attorney, reigning from Tampa, Florida, from the lovely warmer location than here. Of course, you know, I'm going to be jealous. I'm always jealous of the people in the warmer locations. You know, I'm just like that. Hi, Bishop Hill. Thanks for joining us today. So the topic that we'll be talking about is diversity and inclusion. So just taking a look at the people that I actually know. So if I don't acknowledge what you do for a living, it's because maybe I don't know that much. So please don't feel slighted, but feel free to drop it in the comment section. So I do have an attorney, a therapist, HR specialist also. I think she's a director of HR, and then Bishop Hill. So if you notice, and I see Carolyn, I'm not sure what Carolyn does for in a career realm, but as you can see, even if you already have on the live or people where it will impact them in some form or shape, whether it be an entrepreneur or an employee of a firm or having to deal with people in a lot of different sectors. So thank you guys so much for joining, and again, go ahead and share. All right, so diversity and inclusion, what is that really all about? Oh, my bad. I actually just made a quick little boo-boo. I was getting ready to dive into it without introducing my guest. How rude of me. Oh, dear me.
No, you're fine.
Can you imagine that, guys? Oh, dear me. All right. So anyway, so who is Kelly Charles Collins? She is a left and a right brain lawyer. Kelly is analytical. She's free-spirited. And she says she's as real as it gets. She is the true salt of the earth. not afraid to share her own challenges and triumphs. Kelly will give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. Kelly's mission is to be a light for others, revealing their passion, their purpose, and greatness. A true believer in legacy building, Kelly did hundreds of organizations, from small businesses to Fortune 100 companies, to discover the hidden truth about their workplace. And as an employee attorney with more than 20 years of experience, Kelly guides organizations to nurture trust, respect, so that they can create a diverse, inclusive, harmonious cultures that deliver results. As you can see, guys, by just her bio alone, why she was the ideal person for me to talk to about this, all right? Okay, but she also says, but she's not just an attorney. Kelly is also a skilled public speaker, author, consultant, and HR expert. Kelly's first book is titled Ace Your Workplace Investigations. It's a step-by-step guide for avoiding friction, covering your assets, and earning employee trust. If you would like to get a copy of Kelly's book, you can purchase it from Amazon, or you can go direct to her website, kellycharlescollins.com. Again, kellycharlescollins.com. And I will drop her links in the comment section later on, or if somebody would love to do that for me, that would be great. It's just her name as you see it there, kellycharles-collins.com.
No hyphen.
Oh, no hyphen? Okay, so forgive me. kellycharlescollins.com, no hyphen. All right, so here we are. Hey, Pam, thanks for watching again. Guys, go ahead and share. Oh, okay, so Angela said that, so Angela Anderson, she's the director of HR. She says, you both are connected on LinkedIn. So yeah. See, connections. There you go. All righty. So, and Angela was also one of my guests here a while back when we had the topic at the time. Yeah. So, okay, you're in good company, that's for sure. All righty. So let's just kick off. So we always heard about diversity a lot, way before that we probably inclusion that's just from my experience. So there always been sometimes maybe positive, sometimes negative impressions of, okay, should there really be a diversity? Should we consider it as always just a quota that we have to fill, or should we always just get the best person for the job, right? So you always hear different opinions on different sides of the coin, and I am sure that there are good arguments to be made on both sides, right? However, as we got along the way, we also starting to hear a little bit more about inclusion. And this topic actually came to mind because I was on LinkedIn and I watched a video with the CEO of Goldman Sachs. And he was quite candid in his interview talking about inclusion. And me coming from the investment services industry, the investment banking industry. So you don't normally hear that level of candidness coming out of a Wall Street firm CEO level. It's all like, you're kind of a little bit more used to the old boys club kind of mentality. So it was actually rather refreshing to hear him say that. So that piqued my interest, and that's what made me thought, that'd be a great topic. And also just because of the importance of the topic itself. And guys, also one of the things I wanted to ask you, if you're hearing any buzzing or any sounds like that, if you can give me a heads up, because I don't want this good content to be ruined by any kind of buzzing. So just let me know if you don't mind. And to everybody who's posted Kelly's website, thank you so much for doing so. So right. So as I shared, that's one of the reasons that we chose to kick off this topic. So Carolyn says, having diversity doesn't mean that you're actually being inclusive. So I'm like to hear more about that. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, okay.
Hi, Carolyn. I know who Carolyn is. Hi, Carolyn.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I figured it was probably somebody that you knew quite well. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. All right. Thank you, Angela. Great. And Carolyn and company, if you don't mind, you can go ahead and share this live. Okay. So before we kick off, do you want to say anything about what I've said so far before we actually go into the questions, Kelly?
So I think it's important that, and I think you'll probably ask me about this, the difference between diversity and inclusion, because they're totally separate things.
Right.
And you are correct that most people back in the day really talked about diversity, and that was a numbers game, right? And then so lately we've been talking about inclusion because it's not enough to have people there. If you have people there, then you need to do something with them. And so that's where we're going. There's this shift towards focus on inclusion.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, well put, because that means I wasn't off in my thought processes. It was like, here, diversity. And then suddenly now you have this inclusion, which of course, if you think about it, it does make sense, especially how you captured it very well. Okay. So how would you define diversity and inclusion?
Okay. So diversity is who we are, right? What makes us unique. So our race, our ethnicity, our national origin, our religion, our hair, our political beliefs, our socioeconomic status, our sexual orientation, gender identity, our able-bodiedness, everything that makes us uniquely us, right? So what makes us different from the other person. So that's the diversity part of it. The inclusion part of it is the involvement and the empowerment. It's bringing together the differences of all of us and including us in the company. If we're talking about business, including us in the business's strategic plan and the all of the goals and missions for growth in the business. So not just having us there so that you can put out your report and say, listen, we have this percentage of women, this percentage of Hispanics, this percentage of Blacks, this percentage who are disabled. It's not about that. It's when you have those people in your business that you then involve them in your strategic plan, in your training, in your empowerment, in your growth, in moving them up the ladder so that when they come in, they don't just stay at the bottom, but they have the ability to grow with your organization.
Right. And that is so key because, well, two things that you said stuck out to me, but the last one I'll start with, where you said that when the people come in, the diverse population come in, they don't just stay to the bottom. I won't say the company, but again, working in the investment banking industry, I remember there was one particular back office that they had on, anybody, if there's anybody on here that works in the investment industry, they'll know what I'm talking about when they refer to the back office, office, right? Because that's where you found majority of the diversity. You did not find the diversity up on the upward trajectory. So that was kind of key, what you just said a while ago. All right, wonderful. Hi, Anita. Thank you so much for watching. Please go ahead and share. Thank you. All righty. So, and guys, remember, please do not be shy for, stating your comments or asking your questions. All righty. So, to our listening audience, now hearing what Kelly has just said about not just being a numbers game, being able to not stay at the bottom, being able to be groomed, trained, invested in, whether it be professionally and personally, to take the person to the top. What has been your, maybe not your personal experience, but even just what you've been exposed to, even you being a manager or somebody owning your own company, what has been your experience that you've seen over the course of, career lifespan?
Okay.
All right.
So my experience as an attorney, and I've had my own business, but not with my own employees, but my experience as an attorney and dealing in this area of employment law for over 20 years is that the employees, if they do bring in diverse employees, they do exactly what we were just talking about. They are not groomed. So, you hear people talk a lot about having mentors and sponsors, right? They're two totally different things.
Right.
One shows you kind of the way and one makes a way, right? So a mentor shows you the way to do things and, will talk to you and help to guide you in that way. A sponsor, on the other hand, makes the way for you. So they will put your name out there. They will find positions for you. They will, if somebody says anything, they will vouch for you. Right. And I think that's what happens. So when people come in, when diverse populations come in, because not everybody loves diversity, right? People will come in and they won't receive the training. They won't receive the promotions. And so the pipeline that you look at when you're looking at succession planning, the pipeline, there's nobody in the pipeline. So when we talk about at the upper levels of businesses, the board members, the executive management,
Mm-hmm.
The reason there's nobody up there is because there's nobody in the pipeline to get there, right? So
Right.
if you keep people at the bottom rung of the
Mhm.
ladder, they'll
Mhm.
never come up the ladder because there's nothing for them. There's no training. So when those positions become available, they'll
Mhm.
say, oh, well, they don't have the proper training, or not this time, or, they don't really have the communication skills to do that. And it's because they have not been groomed when
Right.
they come in, right? And so it has to be that there's the mid-level management is also diverse. All of the
Mhm.
business units are diverse. And as you go up, so that you can create this pipeline to the top.
Right. And that is so well put, because I can just talk from my own experience where, even being a manager and seeing different things that I've experienced coming up through my years of 20 plus years, in financial services. I too have seen exactly that, what you've just described, where you said there is no one in the pipeline. And then what happens is that they go out further and then they'll hire supposedly people who they brand as superstars from other companies and pay them probably triple times what it would have cost if they just invested in the people within their own organization.
Right.
So that is so key. So I'm having a question come over here,
Okay.
and Angela is saying, does Skelly provide training to companies?
I absolutely do. I do. For the past 20 years, I've been training companies. So from small businesses to Fortune 100 companies on basically anything that has to do with employment law. Lately, I've focused a lot on unconscious bias, diversity and inclusion, corporate culture, because I think those are really some core issues that need to be addressed in businesses to lay the proper foundation for anything else to really, make sense, right? So there's lots of things with the Me Too movement and sexual harassment. And my book is about, workplace investigations.
Mm-hmm.
But all of these things, culture building, having this foundation where people feel that when they come into your organization, they really are a part of the organization, are all foundation things that need to be in any type of business. And so that's why I'm focusing on those areas right now.
Okay, so Angela, hopefully that answered your question. So you can definitely connect with Kelly afterwards. Okay, so Carolyn says, so true. Go on websites and look on the leadership teams and board of directors key roles. Carolyn? Absolutely. I was sharing a conversation. I think I shared it with you yesterday, Kelly, where I was walking by in an organization that I worked years ago, and someone passed, said, Judy, come on here for a second. And I was like, what? So I was like, I need to show you something. And what they wanted to show me was a new org structure that just came out. I'm hearing a little of a buzzing. I hope that's not coming from
If
me.
you hear a noise, I'm so sorry, you all. I live near the port of Tampa, and the cruise ship is getting ready to leave without me, but it's leaving.
I don't know what is it about my life.
So I apologize. I apologize that you heard that. I'm sorry. I was hoping it would.
Okay. So the last time I was speaking to Jan Sinclair, who lives in London. And of course, this time is 8:00 her time. And luckily we got to the end of the live and the fireworks in her time.
We won't have any fireworks, but we may have another horn. They're trying to tell people to get on the ship.
Right. And now we have cruise ships that's going by. I don't know. I seem to get all the excited guests. Okay.
Sorry about that.
At least it's fun. All right. All right. So anyway, so as I was saying, so when I was walking by, he says, look at this. And what happened? The company at the time had just, blasted the new org chart of, the top level. And of course, there was no diversity. And he was like, you mean to tell me they cannot find anyone else? And I was like, okay, well, clearly that's what they were implying at the time. Okay, so that is so true. So Allison also says, so Carolyn, I hope you, as I can, by my story, that definitely confirms what you just said. So then Allison says, as a law firm owner, I have hired over 50, under 30, Black, white, Hispanic, male, female, gay, lesbian. But when I posted a picture of my then all female staff, trolls commented, 1 second, it's long, so I have to open it up. Chose commented to question why I was discriminating against men. White male firms are really questioned about having all white male staff. I'm held to a higher standard. Allison, you are female.
Right. Right. And as women, right. So, and that's different because people look at diversity as generally just men versus women, right? Or black versus white, right? Related to race. And so they don't think of it as characteristics of us that you cannot see, right? So my gender identity, my sexual orientation, the things that you don't see, those also are things that relate to diversity. And it's funny because I'll tell you this, like, for example, when I go to a conference,
right,
I am very cognizant not to sit at a table with just all Black people, because I don't want people to like look at that and be like, well, all the Black people are over there, like separating themselves. But all the white people sit together, right?
Right.
So people just look right at things and they make their own judgments about it. So they look at her website and they see just all women, not understanding that within the class of women, there is diversity in and of itself, right? So we just have to make sure that we are all being mindful of having diverse people, right? It would be wonderful if some of those women were, of color, whatever color, Black, Hispanic, Asian, whatever.
Right.
I'm sure, wonderful to have a male on staff, but we have companies where it's all male. We have boards all the time that are all male. We have executive management teams that are all male. I represent huge corporations, and when I go and look at their boards, a lot of them are male. I usually go on there to see, well, okay, what is the diverse structure of this business? And there really isn't a lot of diversity when you get to the top. And that's just the nature of the beast. I was looking at some statistics and they said, as of January of this year, less than 6% of women ran Fortune 500 companies, right?
Yeah.
And I think it was like less than 1% were women of color. And at that time, none of them were African American. So, they get upset. Men get upset sometimes when they see all women, but, turnabout's fair play. But I also think it's important for all of us. If we are going to talk about diversity and inclusion, all of us really need to be on board with it. And we really need to walk the walk and talk the talk. It's like, you can't just say, when I talk about diversity, you have a lot of companies, you go on their website and it still says diversity. It doesn't say diversity and inclusion. And so we're into diversity. Well, it's one thing to talk about it. It's another thing to really do it, to really have that ingrained in the mission of your business, really ingrained in everything that you do, your strategic plan across the board.
Right, exactly. So, Allison says yes, and let's not forget female or Black, because Allison is actually, Black. So,
and the funny thing when we talk about women, right? So women as a whole, we're paid less. We don't get these upper management positions. We don't get into even some middle management positions, right? And then they talk about Black women who have an even worse time in getting there. So they call Black women double outsiders. And the reason that they do that is because they say even a Black man has an affinity with a white man because they're male, and a white woman has an affinity with the white male because they're white, whereas the Black woman has no affinity to that white male. And so, we need to look at those things too. These are all the types of bias and unconscious bias things that happen. So there's no affinity for these people, right? There's no affinity to us. And there's a study that they did the other day that shows that when a Black female takes over, like as a CEO or takes over in upper management, that her white male counterparts will all of a sudden just become less helpful and not want to help and not do anything, to move her forward. So, listen, diversity and inclusion is not easy. It is a complex subject. It is not a one and done. This is a continuous thing that you need to be doing.
Right. It almost says it has to be a way of life. It has to always be at your front cortex where you're always thinking, okay, how is it that my actions, the words I choose to use, whether it be verbally or written, how am I communicating that message? How is it that because we all have unconscious bias. I know that's another subject by itself, but the truth is, it is our unconscious biases that will also impact our ability to be inclusive, right? So let me just take a look at, so Dr. Cook just wrote, I have worked with many people that experience racism, harassment, etc., and often suffer without adjustments being made from management. Even when involving EEO, the emotional toil of proving their case is trying. What are some ways for this to be managed?
Okay, so that's sort of a different subject than diversity and inclusion. However, one of the things obviously to do is to train. You have to train your management to understand how to deal with issues. We have right now in our workplaces so many different generations, right? And people deal with issues differently. So you have millennials who they socialize with each other on the internet. They socialize with each other outside of work. They're each other's bosses. You have our generation where we grew up, everybody was like, you need to go to school, you need to go to college, you need to work hard, you need to do this, right? And then you have our parents who are also still in the workforce who, came up with a different work ethic and also a different understanding of the times. So right now, we have Title VII, we have harassment laws, we have discrimination laws that weren't in place when our parents were working, some of them, right? And so a lot of it is about training and having people understand what behavior is appropriate, what behavior is not appropriate. And it is tied to diversity in that when people of different cultures, people of different races, people of different backgrounds come together, there are these types of issues or these types of communication gaps. People, what are norms to some people are not norms to other people. What's good work ethic to some people is not to other people. Whether if you don't agree with the fact that there are diverse people in there and you have the ability to make decisions about how people move up or not in the company, then you may use that in order to keep people back, right? So all of it is intertwined. A lot of it has to do with training and making people aware of what their rights and responsibilities are, but also what their obligations are and what the company's expectations are.
Right. Okay. So, Dr. Cook, I hope that answered your question to a certain extent, bearing in mind, as we said, that is a slightly different topic. But I just want to take the moment to acknowledge some of the folks here. So, Aaron Lowe, thank you for joining. Ephraim, thank you for joining. Carl, thanks for joining. And as always, guys, please feel free to go ahead and share. And Kelly, I hope you noticed we're not even getting through our questions because our vibrant listeners here know their questions.
No, it's a topic that people are interested in, and they don't always have the opportunity to have these conversations because people don't like to have this conversation. So,
but the truth is, unless we have these conversations, we will not be able to move forward. And that's one of the things that I've always shared. Like, even if I have someone who doesn't look like me, I don't have mind having that really deep conversation. I'll never forget, I was in New Zealand, in Wanaka, and there was this black and white couple. I met them just eating ice cream, walking on the beach. And it just so happened, it was a funny story, actually. So she forgot her makeup, apparently. I'm sitting on the bench by myself having my ice cream. That's minding my business. So I saw them look at me. I'm like, okay, I don't really know you. So I'm in New Zealand. I don't know you. So he turns to her. He's white. And he says, well, there's a black woman over there. Maybe you could borrow her makeup. Poor thing, in his mind, he just says another black woman to another black woman. she's a total different shade than I was. But oh, you can borrow her makeup. Not to forget that we don't share makeup, but that's another story by itself. So anyway, so I looked at them wondering, like, why are they staring at me? Long story short, I smiled. They walked over and started to talk to me. So then the girlfriend told me the story of why they were staring. We ended up spending the rest of the day and the evening together. They were from New Zealand, and had a ball with them. And we had some of the strongest conversations about race. And it wasn't hostile. It was just frank, honest discussion. And I left saying, Dag, I wish people in the US would be so comfortable, having that kind of dialogue, because it was quite enlightening, because there were some things that he thought. And when we had to share with him, I said, no, this is why we will interpret certain things as such. So he's like, oh, okay. So it was an education thing. So yeah.
I think one of the things too, when you talk about diversity, sometimes it's words, right? So people don't like, can you hear feedback? I'm getting some feedback. People don't like the word diversity. So talk about different, we're different. What are our differences? I think people may be able to accept that a little bit more, that we're just different. Because I think people attach diversity to affirmative action. And so the challenge that you have with diversity and people accepting that we need to move forward into this diverse and inclusive workplace is that, so they have a fear of losing out, right? So So if you keep bringing in diverse people, does that mean that I'm being moved out of competition for this position? Are they going to be the ones who come in and take over my job? Are they the ones who are going to come over and step in front of me in the pipeline? And I think if we start to talk about diversity more in terms of celebrating people's differences and people's uniqueness, that may help with the conversations that you have in companies. Diversity is a wonderful thing for companies. Diversity is great for creativity, for innovation, for profitability, all of those things. When they look at companies who are diverse and who celebrate diversity and inclusion, that's what you see, is that their numbers for profitability, for innovation, for growth, all of those things go up. You have customers who are diverse, right? Your customer base is generally reflects the country, or reflects the city that you're in, or the town that you're in. And so if your workplaces do that, then people will gravitate to your brand. It will help your reputation. People will understand that you respect other people, and therefore that will help you with customers. It helps you with your employees as far as turnover, employee engagement. It really just creates a wonderful environment for your business to grow.
Okay. All righty. So Allison says, when I worked for a larger corporation, I asked myself to remain in all white male spaces. When they get used to us, many will support and advance us. But when there are no efforts from the top to create mentorship inclusion programs, many non-whites and women feel unwanted and stay on the fringe. I never allowed the comment got cut off. I'm not sure if. All right. So Alice, I'm not seeing the remainder of your comment there. I'm not sure what happened to it, but okay.
So I think that goes back to, I just want to say to Allison, that goes back to what I've been saying about strategic plan. Companies have strategic plans. Companies have their way of doing business and what they need to do and what the numbers look like, apart from what the people are there. What is their profitability, right? How are they going to be profitable? What they need to sell, how many they need to sell, whatever. So, and in order to do that, they have plans. In those strategic plans, one of those things need to be personnel, right? Personnel has to be a part of that strategic plan. And diversity of their personnel and inclusion of the diverse people that they hire has to be part of that plan.
Right. Yeah, I was not able to see the rest of her comments. She says she never allowed that to stop her. And you see, and that's the whole point, so Allison is the, that go-getter. She's not going to let anything stop her. If she knows there's something she wants to get to, she's going to, make the way if the way is not there. So, but, sadly, a lot of folks are not like that or don't have that level of tenacity. So yeah, but okay. So let's so at least we can get to some of the questions.
Okay.
So you had touched on the bottom line, and that's one of the questions that I had here, right? So I remember I had read as this or listened to different things, and it did talk about usually if you have not only the diverse, but you have the inclusion of the diversity within decision-making, topics. One such example, I think it was Frito-Lay that came up with this type of chips because they were operating in Mexico. So rather than take the ones that were, produced and made up here and just, stuff it down to folks in Mexico's throat, somebody decided to listen because there was an employee that was in the cafeteria and he was doing something different that was more Mexican germane with his chips. And it just so happened that I think the company took on the idea. So the long story short, even if though that was a stumble upon, the point is that they took on the idea and it became a big hit there because, again, it was diverse, taste buds at the time, right? Mm-hmm. From a diverse employee, but then the company incorporated and obviously it impacted the company's bottom line. So that's one aspect. And then the other aspect that we spoke about earlier that says, okay, it would actually cost you a lot cheaper if you were to invest in your people personally and professionally to train them up through the pipeline, and then you'll have better employee engagement. So two topics that I want to touch on, employment and the company bottom line.
So going back to your first example, right, about the chips, not only does it affect their bottom line because they're profitability, but imagine that you are a customer of that company. You're a customer of Frito-Lay and you're of Mexican heritage, and you go into a store and now you see something that is from your heritage, right, from your background. Mm-hmm. That makes you feel good because you're like, wow, I can have something that's just for me. Right. And then you have somebody who's not Mexican who says, wow, that's different. Oh, let me try that. Right. And so now you are really focusing on the customer experience. That's what's going to make you profitable. Right. Companies need customers. Your customers need to be happy. Your employees need to be happy. Right. Your employees could be your best friend or your worst nightmare. It's up to you. Because if your employees are not happy in your business, believe me, they will do what they need to do or want to do to destroy your business. Right. And so if you bring people in just for the purpose of having them sit there, right, so that you can put your numbers out and say, oh, yeah, I have this, believe me, that's not going to help your bottom line. Right. Think about if, when you have a diverse group of people and they can give you different ideas of how to reach out to the Black community, how to reach out to the Asian community, how to reach out to the Hispanic community, the gay community, all of these different communities, instead of having just a homogeneous group of people trying to figure out, man, I wonder what we would need to do, to go market this product to the Hispanic population, but you have nobody there who speaks Spanish. You have nobody who has any background in the Hispanic population. So now you have to go by, trial and error, maybe create something. Right. Or you have to go outside of your business to hire a consultant, right? That you have to pay lots of money to. Yes. To come and tell you what to do when you could have those people in your business to begin with, right? Right. Okay. And then the second part, tell me again. Sorry. Right. Mm-hmm. So for employee engagement, it's the same thing. If I come into your business, I'll tell you an example. When I was a public defender, I was a young attorney, and they invited me to a meeting with all the top people. It was me and another there was a Black male attorney and myself. We got invited to this meeting. Everybody else in there was white. Mm-hmm. And so I get in the meeting, and since I'm a mouth almighty, I just, they were talking about stuff, and I was like, oh, okay, you're having a conversation. You invited me. That means I can talk, right? I'm supposed to say stuff. Well, I get in this meeting and I start talking. And afterwards I get called into another meeting. I get called into a meeting by my boss, and he says, Kelly, really, you were just supposed to sit there. You weren't supposed to say anything. So how do you think that made me feel? Oh, so you just
Right.
had me in there as a number. You had me in there as your token to sit there. You didn't want me to say anything. You just wanted to be able to say that I was there. That
Right.
is what I'm talking about employee engagement, empowering people and involving people. It's not enough to have me sit there. I need to be able to speak. I need to know that when I speak, that you're listening, that my ideas are being taken seriously, that if you use my idea, that I get credit for it, because that's a
Yes.
huge thing, right? That
Right.
they will use your ideas and not give you credit for it.
Mhm.
And that they involve you, like really, really involve you in the day-to-day workings of the company.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
and if you
Right.
do that, people won't leave. People will want to be involved. People will give you ideas. People will fight their way to
Mhm.
help you and to make the company look good, which all of those things affect your bottom line. If you don't have people leaving and always having to hire people and retrain people, then
Right.
that helps your bottom line also.
Right. Yeah. So you're talking about the bottom line from, from at least you reduce loss, because every time you have to rehire and retrain, that's loss, that you're basically increasing, having to respend that money again. And then also, as you said, if it happens to be some kind of product or even service, then you are also, chances are, increasing your revenue. So you're benefiting from both ways, not to mention the reputational, good news that would be out there about the type of company that you are, because the employee engagement, just like if you give me good service, I'll go and say, oh, Kelly, she's all that and a bag.
Right.
All right. So, but if you give me poor service, likewise, I'll be like, okay, right. So it goes both ways. So, all right, wonderful.
And you know from people like customer service wise, I'm sure there are people on here who are in customer service,
Mhm.
that people will more readily tell about a bad experience than they will
Absolutely.
tell about a good one. It is
Mhm.
the same thing with your employees. If your employees come there and they feel that they have been treated terribly, or go on Glassdoor and see what they say about you. If you don't think, they will go on there and talk about you. And this is
Right.
one of the
Yeah.
areas that they do that. So, you have to be really mindful that when the way that you treat people is important.
Yeah, absolutely. Most definitely. And you're so right about, because I was trying to design something earlier today, and the lady that I was working with, she was such a breath of fresh air, right? I've had pretty good experience with that company, but she went above and beyond. So I actually asked her name, like if I was to tweet about you to your company, how would they know it's you? Because I wanted her. I didn't want somebody with her name to get credit for it. I wanted her. So I was being very intentional in making sure that I get that message out there. All right. So I have Paul saying that there's something going on in his side of the video, but Carolyn is saying her video and audio is good. So Paul, maybe you want to shut down your device and try again. And Coletta, thank you for watching. I haven't seen you in a while. Welcome back. And please go ahead and share. And Allison says, okay, my point here was that the individual employee have to promote themselves and not merely stay on the border because the company failed to act. Absolutely. And, I agree with what you're saying, Allison. But in a lot of...
Can I just jump in for a second?
Sure.
Allison, I completely get what you're saying. And I'm like you. I don't let people hold me back. I do what I want to do, and I go for what I want to go for. However, there are limitations to that, right? Because if you're in a company and the company has an org structure, and in order for you to go up the ladder, there are certain things that you need to do. It doesn't matter how much you want to do it. If you have people who are there to determine whether or not you can go up that ladder, or if you are in that succession planning pipeline, then if they want to stop you, they will stop you. So yes, I'm like you. I'll go for it, whatever it is I want to do. And sometimes you have to move out of where you are in order to create those positions and create those opportunities. And so one of the things that, as far as involvement and empowerment and inclusion, it is having equal access and meaningful, real access to opportunity. So I completely agree with you as far as people taking responsibility, but you can only do so much when somebody else is responsible for allowing you access.
Right. Okay. All righty. So, so since we touched on the whole unconscious bias, so let's just expand on that a little bit further. It says, okay, is there a relationship between, which we touched on a little bit, but it was only comments coming from me. So I would like you to expand on it here. Says, okay, is there a direct correlation between diversity and inclusion and the unconscious bias?
Yes. Yes. I mean, if you look at, okay, let's look at women. Easy group to look at.
Right.
Women are bossy. Women are, we have attitudes. Women are, we're homemakers or we're mothers. And so we're more interested in our children than our careers. Black women are aggressive. Those are the types of stereotypes relating to women. Those are some of the reasons that women do not get promoted, right? And that's just bias. It's based on stereotypes, right? It's not based on fact. Those are just things that people have, right? Women are emotional, so they're not going to be able to lead the company. Oh, we get hysterical, right? And so, if something happens, we're going to be hysterical. And so we attach those things. And as we're looking at, okay, who's the next person? Who are we going to replace here? Who are we going to put here? Then they're thinking, not the woman. Same thing with minorities. So they look at other minorities, right? Whether it is your national origin, your religion, your sexual orientation, your gender identity. They look at those things too. Oh, you ever heard this? Oh, you're just not the right fit. And that's culturally, you're just not the right fit, right? Or, you just don't have the communication style that we need. All of those things are biased. All of those things are related to the lack of diversity or the hesitation and resistance to diversity. And then that flows over into not having, again, this pipeline. It's all about pipeline, right? If you don't have anybody below to go up, you'll never fix this problem.
Right. Okay. So, so Allison says, if a company blocks the tenacious, then leave. Oh, yeah. I think, Allison, we're all in agreement because even though we may not all know each other, directly, we're similar personality types. Like, if you block me, adios. Okay, got to do what we got to do.
And that's easier. I think for us, the ones of us who have that personality, right? Who have that ability, I think that's easier said than done, right? Yes. We are looking at, when we look at different industries, you look at the restaurant industry, the hotel industry, there's so many levels, especially in hotels, and really any type of major company where there are different levels that you can reach, right? And you have people who are, in the lower levels of either staff or management. And they're doing what they can to make ends meet, to provide for their families and to do whatever. It's easier said than done to say, well, if they don't let you do it, just leave, right? Because then you have to go find another job. For me, where I'm a lawyer, if I thought, oh, you're not doing what I want to do, then I can leave. As a lawyer, I can hang my shingle anywhere. I could sit in my house and have a law firm, right? And so I have a skill set that allows me that freedom, whereas some people don't have that freedom, though they have the desire to succeed and to move forward. They don't have the freedom to be able to do that.
Right. Yeah. Okay. All righty. So we already covered like some of the languages and the stereotypes that ties into the whole unconscious bias, right? But if we were, so me being a leadership coach, so I'm always interested in leaders, right? And especially leaders in this case, that people who are managing people at the top, whether directly, indirectly, etc. And because it's supposed to be a lifestyle, I'm going to even move it outside of the room of an organization and talk about it from just a leadership point of view. All right. So what are some of the things that if you were advising a leader to think about, not just the diversity component of it, but the inclusion component, what would be some of the things that you would tell them, whether it be their language or just,
okay,
I don't want to lead you. What would
that's
you say?
all right. So I think, first of all, they have to define what diversity and inclusion means to them.
Okay.
Right? Because that may mean something. So we might be saying diverse, we need you to have diversity and inclusion. And we have one definition of it and they have another definition of it. So they need to be able to define for you what that looks like to them personally, but also what that looks like as a leader in that business. How does that translate? Because there may be a disconnect. And so at the base, we have to at least establish that we're all on the same page and where we're going. And the next thing that they need to do as leaders is really audit their business. We're always talking about doing audits of different things. They need to audit their business. Who's working for them? Men, women, Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, LGBT, Muslims, whatever. Who is working for you?
Right.
And where? Right? So if you do an audit of your business and you find that all of the minorities are all at the lower levels, there's nobody up there and there's nobody in that pipeline, you need to do an audit so you can say, okay, all right, this is what we have. Now, I know what diversity and inclusion means, right? And this is what it means to our business. Here's what we have as far as what our workforce looks like, diverse or not. First thing now, okay, now we need to bring in the diverse people. So we have to create a strategic plan. I'm always going to say that. It's about strategic planning. Strategic planning for diversity, meaning numbers, right? When I talk about diversity, I'm talking about numbers. Who are the numbers? What do these people look like? And it is create the plan, implement the plan, follow up on the plan, and repeat. This is not one and done. This is something that is constant. At the same time, you have to be doing the same thing with inclusion. When I bring these people into the organization, how am I going to include them in the overall strategic plan, right? How is personnel going to fit within there? And again, it's develop it, implement it, follow up on it, repeat it. Keep just going around and around and around. You have to train people. You have to mentor people. You have to sponsor people. You have to really, like you said, this has to become a lifestyle. Just like everything about your business, that is you eat, sleep, breathe this. Diversity and inclusion has to be that. So that at some point it becomes not this thing, right? Because diversity and inclusion is a thing. And so when things become a thing, then that's where you get people to resist because they feel that people are getting some type of favor. That's why I don't like affirmative action. People don't like it, right? Because they think that people are getting a favor when it really is about leveling the playing field, right? To some extent, and bringing people to the same level so that everybody is starting at the same level so that everybody has access to grow, as the company moves forward. So I think those are the things that they really need to do, but it has to be part of their daily living and their daily conversations. And it has to just be another thing, just like every other thing is on their strategic plan. New customers, new products, new sales, new marketing, whatever. And then once it becomes that, then it just is. It isn't the thing. It just is. It's just part of what they do as a business. I'll tell you, it's funny. I was looking at some diversity reports, right? And I won't say the companies, but two major companies. And it was interesting that their diversity report, even though it mentioned the word inclusion, all of it was numbers. It was all about the percentages of what they had. The other was a complete report, including numbers, including discussions about inclusion and how people were going to be included and what they were going to do and how this was going to show up. And, all of those things that they really have that ingrained. Now, the other company may have policies, but when that's the report that you put out to the world, what does that tell you? And if you go on a lot of companies' websites, it still just says diversity, right? It doesn't say diversity and inclusion. Some of them do now, but it's still for people, it's still numbers. And when it comes to numbers, that's when you have pushback from other people.
Right. And I mean, and we do know we live in the real world. There are companies, as you said, it's a nice catch-all phrase and or word on our website, or in some cases to even get featured in the diversity magazine. All right. It looks pretty. Okay. Yeah. But if you live in the company, you know what I mean? That is just a nice buzzword and or phrase. They're not actually living those values. So we do live in the real world, and this is a real interview. We're going to keep it real. Okay. Alrighty. So Dr. Cook said, you are addressing the comment I was making in terms of environments where diversity inclusions are not embraced and some employees suffer. So while leaving is an option, my thought was tips to help them navigate the dilemma. Okay. All right. So Carla, I hope then the tips that she gave that obviously helped somewhat in terms of, because, okay, I think I'm getting what you were trying to say before. If diversity and inclusion is not being embraced, then obviously the employees may turn around and suffer, whether it be sexual harassment or whatever other format. Right. So even though it's their segment per se in terms of harassment, but sometimes that harassment can come about because of the lack of inclusion.
Right.
Alrighty. So hopefully that a little bit more clarification there. So Muggy Mac also said, relating to one of the tips you gave, was auditing is definitely a necessity in an organization feeding into a strategic plan. Totally agree. And Carolyn is saying on point, give opportunities. Then Muggy Mac also says, inclusion is not a single life issue thing. And as you say, it's not about the numbers. Respect the lived experience, desperado, engage, communicate, and understand. And Muggy Mac, I know her background. She's also an HR personnel. So obviously you can also tell by the comments that we're having here. So that's great information. Alrighty. So of course, as you can tell, remember you were thinking that an hour was long. You see how quickly I told you? Guys, just so you know, I have a question. I probably only asked her 3. But this is great because at least it tells you that this is a topic that people really want to hear on. So if you're okay, seeing us back for a few extra minutes, if you don't mind. And,
a few extra minutes. I gotta run to an event, but
yeah. All right, a few extra minutes and then we wrap up. Okay, thank you for that. No All problem. Right, so we gave the tips already on what the leaders could look to do in terms of making a mindset. And I think one of the things that I drew from what you said as it's a mindset. It's something that we got to live and breathe. It's not a one and done. But also to talk about the video that we both watched in terms of the I, because even though we spoke about, from an African-American, Black versus white, we also have instances where I too, in a corporation, I have had my white female colleagues who, for them too, they may not look the part in terms of may not have the degree level, that kind of requirement, and they too also impact. So we just want to stress here, when we're talking about diversity and inclusion, is not only always going to be what we always think, Black versus white, male versus female, which I think Kelly also made earlier on the top of the hour. But in this particular one, we rarely probably hear where the white female is as impacted as the rest of us, but they are impacted too, because what I'm talking about is what I've experienced with a colleague in the past. Right. Where she has been impacted. Okay, so that Accenture video that we watch is on YouTube video. It started off with I, and what it was trying to say to you is that you start off with the I.
Sorry, there's the boat again.
Okay, we almost finished. We start off with the I, and it's basically what I got from it was that it causes us not to just think that everyone is going to look like us, and that if we all take that responsibility, no matter if you're Black, white, gay, straight, atheist, Christian, whatever you want to go down the pipeline, whatever it is, it looks like to me that it must start off with I. Or do you think organizationally that the tone has to be set from the top? What are your thoughts on that?
Both. Right. So inclusion starts with the letter I, right? So It has to be I. Right. But so at the top determines, right, how the business is going to be run. What is the culture of that business, right? They are the ones. So I think about it as it has to be top down and it has to be bottom up, right? So top down, they are going to initially create, again, back to my strategic plan. They're the ones who develop what this company looks like. What is the mission of this company? What are we selling? Who are we selling to? How are we going to do this? How are we going to make money, right? They determine that. And they determine what that culture is, right, at the top.
Mm-hmm.
However, the people who work in that business also help to determine what that culture is. Because if they don't agree with what's going on at the top, they're going to create their own culture at the bottom, right? And it's not going to be the same.
Right.
So I think all of us have a personal responsibility to assist in creating an environment that is diverse, in creating an environment that is inclusive. And a lot of it starts with our HR personnel. It starts with recruiting. Who are we recruiting? Right? Who are we bringing into the business? And when we bring those people in, where are we bringing them in? When we have people in our business and we have an opening, like this is sort of the example you said before, and they have an opening, and you have people in your business and you want them to have this particular skill set, and you're like, listen, this is a great employee. They've been here for years. They're loyal. They're always on time. They just don't have that skill. Why wouldn't you, right? If it's a diverse employee, why wouldn't you try to put that person in that position or help that person to gain that skill set? If it means going to a course, if it means giving them extra training, imagine what that would do in your business for other people who see that, right? And that could be just from one person. That doesn't have to be from the top, because the top usually is not involved in day-to-day operations. The people who are involved in day-to-day operations are mid and low-level management. They're the ones. So as a single person in that role, you could make a difference about helping somebody to be included in the strategic plan. So I think it's both. It is a top-down and it is a bottom-up strategy.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. All right. So this Carolyn's comment here, she says, not the same, but as you get older, you get even less respect, whereas an older man is wiser, just my opinion. Okay, Carolyn, and fine. I guess I'm assuming, Carolyn, that you probably were responding to the comment that I made about with, white women also have experiences within an organization where it's also impacting them in terms of inclusivity. All right, so last question, and this is it, our final goodbye. It would be, what would you also say about let me go to the personal note so we can end on a personal note. So on a personal note, in terms of how has diversity played a role in your career or contributed to your profession today?
I mean, I don't have a conscious sense, right, that somebody has put me somewhere or put me in a position because I'm Black or because I'm a woman.
Okay.
Do I think that has happened? Yes, right? Because a lot of times I am the only, right? And so then I become the face of, right? But I have not personally, I really can't think of a situation where I would say, listen, I felt that when I got that position because I was a Black woman. Now, some of that comes from the fact that I am supremely confident in my abilities and who I am and my skills. Right. And so I don't worry about those things. But because this is the type of work I do, I'm very cognizant that that is there, and that for other people who look and see the position that I have now or other positions that I have, that they may feel that I got that position because I'm a Black woman.
Right. Okay. All right, guys. So you heard it here. Hopefully we have had as a real and touched on tangible, discussion points. As I said, some of the questions that we had, we didn't get a chance to go through because we believe in taking your questions, your comments, because you're a listening audience, and we need to also put you first and respond to the things that are on your hearts. So hopefully Kelly was able to answer them, and the dialogue that we had here was, instrumental, and it served to give you some of the tips for those of you who would like to follow up with Kelly afterwards. Again, you have her website there in terms of being able to purchase her book. She's also on LinkedIn, her name as shown there, which is Kelly Charles Collins. And Kelly, do you have a page on Facebook or just your account?
I do. It's Kelly Charles Collins 22.
Okay, so Kelly Charles Collins 22. Does it have that hyphen? Or no?
No hyphen.
Oh, okay, because you're like
only my real name has. Only my real name has a hyphen. Everything else is not hyphenated. Okay, this is what I get for not wanting to change my name. That everything is so long.
Right. The mother, some would say.
And if they want to email me, if anyone has questions, you can email me at kelly@kellycharlescollins.com. And can I show a copy of my book?
Sure, absolutely. Yes.
So this is my book. It's kind of hard to see, but it's Ace Your Workplace.
A little bit more above it. Yeah.
Okay. So this is my book. I'm very excited about it. It came out last month. It's Ace Your Workplace Investigation. So if that's something that you do as part of your job, or if you're a manager or business owner, I think it's a great book. It helps to reframe the discussion around investigations to focus more on the benefits than the burdens, because we don't like doing them. But it's a good read, and so I hope you get your copy.
Yeah, absolutely. So guys, thank you so much. And Kelly, I won't hold you anymore. I know you got to run. Thank you, guys. I am Judy-Ann Chung. I'm your leadership coach and also founder and owner of Coaching You Upward, wherein I focus on leaders and high performers who just basically wants to get it done. I am also will be running a confidence pod. It's something that was birthed out of speaking to my clients, and I was seeing that, there were these people that they had all the necessary whether it be talent as well as the affiliations to go along with and back it up. They had the data behind them, but yes, the confidence was an issue. So I'm also launching a confidence pod program, which is going to be a 4-week program. If you'd like to have additional information on that, you too can also reach out to me here. I am on Coaching You Upward. This is my page, as well as my website is also Coaching You Upward, and I'm on LinkedIn. So you can reach me at 732-521-4997. And as always, you can send me an email at judyann@coachingyouupward.com. So again, thank you to all my listeners. I love you all. Those who haven't shared, go ahead and share. And hey, this is great information. It affects us all. So share it. Karen is sharing. Kelly, thank you.
Thanks, Judy.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.